We're here because free speech is under attack. We're here because people are being convinced that socialism works. We're here because people are being judged guilty until proven innocent. We are fighting back with facts. This is not a safe zone, so buckle up, Buttercup. This is the raw, naked truth.
Israel under attack, horrific sexual abuse incidents in Baltimore churches, and more. Welcome to the Raw Naked Truth. I'm your host, Eric Lopkin, and here's the news you need to know. Palestinian militants suspected to be affiliated with Hamas fired over 20 rockets from Gaza and Lebanon towards Israel following confrontations between Israeli police and Palestinian worshippers at a major Muslim shrine in Jerusalem. The escalation at the mosque, which sits on the fault line of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, came during a volatile period in which the Muslim holy month of Ramadan and the Jewish holiday of Passover overlap. The shrine is in Jerusalem's Old City, where Easter week rituals unfolded at the same time. Palestinian militants fired rockets from Gaza towards Israel for a second day in an apparent response to the events at the shrine. It is the third holiest site in Islam and stands on a hilltop known to Jews as the Temple Mount, which is the holiest site in Judaism. Conflicting claims over it have spilled into violence before, including a bloody 11-day war 2 years ago between Israel and Hamas, the Islamic militant group that rules Gaza. The Israeli air defense system, known as the Iron Dome, intercepted some rockets fired from Lebanon into Israel, but others have hit Israeli targets. The Maryland Attorney General's office on Wednesday released a redacted version of a report with details on sexual abuse allegations against 158 Catholic priests, with more than 600 victims over the last 80 years. The investigation also examined the Archdiocese of Baltimore's handling of the cases. Former Maryland Attorney General Brian Frosh launched the inquiry in 2019, and researchers went over more than 100,000 pages of documents dating as far back as the 1940s. The investigation was completed in November. After a court fight, a judge last month ordered the redacted version to be made public. Hours after the report's release, the Maryland General Assembly sent Governor Wes Moore a bill allowing more survivors to sue people who sexually abused them. Robert F. Kennedy Jr., the Democratic nephew of former President John F. Kennedy, declared his candidacy for the Democratic nomination for president on Wednesday via filings with the Federal Election Commission. The 69-year-old's bid is considered a long shot in an effort to replace President Joe Biden in 2024. Kennedy Jr. is the second Democratic candidate to announce a bid for the White House. Author Marianne Williamson is also running in the Democratic race. Biden has not yet declared that he is seeking re-election. The decision by Kennedy Jr., the son of former Attorney General and New York Senator Robert Kennedy, comes a month after he launched a fundraising campaign on social media to help him decide whether to run for president. The Biden administration is facing fierce scrutiny for a proposal that would drastically impact the health and nutrition of low-income women and children by reducing the amount of dairy low-income families have access to while inflation sits at a 4-decade high. The proposal would reduce the amount of milk that millions of participants in the Women, Infants, and Children (WIC) food benefits program can receive, potentially slashing milk rations by as much as 25%. International Dairy Foods Association President and CEO Michael Dykes said the proposed change was stunning, noting that there has not been a clear explanation for the potential pivot. Dykes noted the change would have a negative impact on the health of women and children nationwide, warning that 90% of Americans already do not get the recommended 3 servings of dairy per day. The U.S. trade deficit widened for a third straight month in February as the value of exports fell more than imports. The gap in goods and services trade grew 2.7% to $70.5 billion, the widest in 4 months, Commerce Department data showed on Wednesday. The figures aren't adjusted for inflation. The median estimate in a Bloomberg survey of economists called for a $68.8 billion gap. The value of imports decreased 1.5%, while exports fell 2.7%, both reflecting weaker merchandise trade. On an inflation-adjusted basis, the goods trade deficit increased to $104.6 billion, also the widest in 4 months. U.S. exports of consumer goods, motor vehicles, and capital equipment all declined in February. That's the Raw Naked Truth. You can catch every episode of the Raw Naked Truth at xvadio.com/podcasts, the Apple Podcasts app, Google Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, Amazon Music, Audible, and other platforms that respect freedom of speech. We'll see you next time.